What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time here on a nice Saturday afternoon or evening. Full slate of college football. I think there was some UFC, some big boxing event is on Netflix. I don't follow that, but I'm sure the main event will be way past at least mine and Justin's bedtime. Don't know about TJ, but we'll see how that goes. Welcome, everybody. I'm Britt. TJ, what's going on today? Lots going on. Sports, football season's in full swing. Baseball playoffs coming up soon. Basketball's like a month away. Always something on the sports calendar.
Yeah, I actually had a really busy day today. I started the day with the Tournament Takes podcast, and then I had a little local convention here in Saskatoon called Sask Assemble, where there's a bunch of toy vendors and comic book shops that come and bring stuff, and toy collectors and games and stuff like that. And so Agents of Fandom had a booth there, and so I was hanging out there all day, did a little moderating of some comic book creator panels, had a good time, but long day. And so ready to close some things out with some baseball and then relax and start building some lineups for tomorrow.
Your day sounds a lot more fun than mine. I was up all morning with kids in the streets making football teams and sports betting all day. Other than that, Justin, we've got an injury into the Van Zuden family. Hopefully that goes out good for your son. You also a busy day. All three of us very busy, but we got to make room for some baseball, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, our oldest got injured in the cross-country race today, which was about 2 hours away. So this was actually the first one that we didn't travel and go to. So I was kind of glad we didn't go because I would have freaked out when I didn't see him, make it to the finish line. So we just got a text that said, "I'm injured," in the typical male fashion, right? Teenage male. "I'm injured" is the text message. So it took a while to extract the info, but he's doing all right. Just a sprained ankle is probably going to shelf him for a little bit. But so busy day here. It's beautiful in the Midwest today. It's close to 90 degrees today. We're actually going to grill out some burgers and brats after the show here tonight. So going to take advantage of the last few weeks of summer-like weather that we have left here.
Yeah, I was looking at the weather for football tomorrow. It's like 90-something in KC tomorrow. So the heat wave, I think it stays hot all next week too, or around most of the country. TJ, you were going to say something. Did you have a thought while Cards was speaking?
I was saying you get a text like that. Like that could be a broken fingernail, a sprained ankle, a cracked open skull. You truly have no idea. It could be any of the bunch.
Yeah, that's all. It's 2 words. I'm injured.
You're lucky you even got that from a teenager, Justin. So
and then after a while it was, "Are you okay?" And that was, "Yep." So he's doing all right.
Sounds about right. So all right, let's get into some baseball for today. We'll get some likes, get the likes up. Let's talk Spidey bombs first. TJ, you give Spidey bombs. I'll give a couple of football bets. What are we looking at? What kind of numbers do we need to get to today?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. It feels like it's been so long since I've talked baseball. I forgot about that. So we'll drop the first one at 50 likes, second at 75, third at 100.
All right. So hit that like button. I will do my part and click that now. I got a couple of bets. I think I have the most money I think I've ever bet on a single bet on one of these. It's kind of an ancillary one, but I'll get that to you guys. It's been on Scores and Odds, one of my favorite bets of the week. But Justin, let's talk some baseball here today. And I think it was last week, too. We just had a lot of pitching, and it's the same as today. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guys to use. I think 2 are pretty clearly the favorites based on salary and matchups and whatnot, and that would be both Brian Wu and Dylan Cease. I think you can make a case for Hunter Green, but in the minor league ballpark out there in Sacramento, Green certainly has plenty of upside, but that can also go against him. He likes to give up some home runs as well. He's like to hit them, so we'll see how that plays out here. Wu, it doesn't get much better for him from a strikeout matchup against the Angels. Cease, if Dylan Cease upside game's ever going to come to fruition, seems like against the Rockies might be one of those where he's able to get the strikeouts without giving up some of the runs here today. Do you have a favorite between the 2? Salary on DraftKings makes both of them pretty playable. Just seems like those are the clear top 2 for me today.
Yeah, they are for sure. I think, Wu is probably the cash game staple. I got to look and see if the Angels lineup came out yet.
I don't see it yet. No,
it has not. But Neto has been banged up, and Adele's dealing with an illness. So if Neto's not in there tonight, I mean, that lineup really takes a hit. They're projected for 2.9 runs. So, yeah, I mean, I think in cash games, Woo is probably the play. I question maybe a little bit whether he's got the ceiling. Like if you take all of the top, say 6 priced guys, I think 6, maybe, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, Sonny Gray's priced ahead of Green on DK. But if you take out Gray and throw in Green and Cease, that's 7 of the top 8 guys where Woo has the lowest strikeout rate of the bunch. So in GPPs, I think I'll pivot. Sorry, I was trying to hit the button in time. I'll pivot to Green as my favorite guy. He's the most expensive on FanDuel, which I think might keep his ownership a little bit lower over there. But the Reds are still in the playoff race because the Mets have basically been losing every day. So, the Reds will let Green throw 100 pitches. There are some Ks in that A's lineup. They worry a little bit about the power, but his strikeouts are all the way up to like 32% for the year now. So if Green's going to be a little lower owned than Cease and Woo, which I think he will be, we've got it fairly close, but I think Green might be a little bit lower than where we have him. I like Green as the GPP pivot, but there's all sorts of pitching. I mean, we haven't even talked about Hunter Brown, Logan Webb, Joe Ryan, Sonny Gray, Mizorowski. All these guys are pitching tonight. It's crazy for a 7-game slate that we've got this much high-end pitching tonight.
Yeah, again, with Hunter Brown, we're projecting at 6.5 ownership. What's your take on it? Is that going to be too high? I understand everyone's going to go Woo, Cease, and I like your call on Green too. Those are clearly going to be the top 3, the ownership on SimLabs and RotoGrinders, right? That's what we're projecting for. With everyone else falling by the wayside, I mean, Hunter Brown down here is what, the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, something like that, highest owned pitcher. I mean, he's got plenty of ceiling. Atlanta, you look at the names and you think they'd be good, but they're not. I mean, that looks like a nice pivot to me.
Yeah, and I put him 4th on my list, so he's right below all those other guys. And when you factor in the ownership, I mean, I think if you're building 25, 30, 50 lineups tonight, it's pretty easy to get overweight on 6 to 10% ownership. So, yeah, I like Hunter Brown quite a bit. I believe he's at 7 consecutive starts now without allowing more than 2 runs. 2 earned runs anyway. He's super consistent. Maybe doesn't have the K ceiling that some of these other guys do, but yeah, I like him for GPPs a good bit. I put him ahead of the others in that range. Webb against the Dodgers, I don't really think is necessary. Joe Ryan's been struggling a bit lately, and Marte is back in the lineup for the D-backs tonight. So definitely after that Woo, Green, Cease tier, like if you're looking for a contrarian spend up, I think Brown is probably the best guy.
All right, TJ, where are we at on likes? Did we cross any thresholds for you? And then maybe you can talk some pitching. Do you have a favorite up here near towards the top?
We are at 45, so still 5 away. Keep hitting that like button for Spidey Bomb number 1. If I'm playing one of the chalky guys, I think I prefer Brian Woo. The one I'd be looking to fade would be Dylan Cease. It is a great price tag. We've just seen so often Dylan Cease chalk fail where he gets wild, he starts walking guys, and he ends up getting out of there in the 5th inning because he racks up his pitch count. So I'd be looking to get away from Cease. I don't mind Woo though. I understand he's super highly owned. It's just such a great matchup. He's in such a great spot. Hunter Green, I love the matchup and the player, but I just really hate that ballpark for him. But I still think he's a really good play with a lot of upside. If I were playing, I am only playing one lineup today, and I'm going with one of these pivots. But the 3 guys I like the best for like low ownership tournament guys today, it's Jacob Mizorowski, all the way up to 108 pitches in his last start. Can be wild. Sometimes he can be bad, but he's got some high strikeout stuff too. And so if he is on at that price tag, he's the best pitcher on the slate. And so I don't think the ownership reflects that. I really like Jacob Mizorowski today. And then the other 2 guys, what you guys mentioned, one of them, Hunter Brown, I think is a really good play. He's going to be low owned because projections just really don't like him today. But I think he's great for that low ownership in tournaments. And then Logan Webb against the Dodgers is the other guy that I think still makes for a very good play with his ground ball ability, despite it being the Dodgers.
Yeah, Webb's someone I've long played in DFS and sports betting. When he's at home, Logan Webb at home is basically he'd win the Cy Young every every year. But unfortunately, I think a lot of pitchers probably too, if they pitched in San Francisco, would probably qualify for that. But against the Dodgers, I don't know. What's your take on him, Justin? Would you want to roll out a low-owned Logan Webb who can go 100 pitches, has strikeout ability? Can he compete at the top tonight?
He certainly can. I mean, he can compete anytime for sure. And the Dodgers lineup isn't necessarily as dangerous as we all thought it was going to be earlier in the year. You know, it's just it's been fine, but not to the level of dominant. Will Smith is still out, so that's a bump higher for Webb as well. So yeah, I think he's fine. Certainly not a priority for me. I'd put him just below Hunter Brown, but again, another guy I wouldn't argue with getting overweight on. If you're doing multi-lineup builds, I think I like him a little bit better than Joe Ryan now with where our numbers are sitting. Mizorowski, I mean, that's a good point on him as well, except my only worry there is because he got over 100 pitches in his last outing, like the Brewers are so careful with him that today they're going to say, whoa, 75, and you're probably done. But you are getting a little bit of a discount there on DraftKings as well. So on a different slate, like all these guys would be in the conversation as your SP1. There's just so many pitchers for a 7-game slate. It's crazy. So you're going to get some of these guys lower owned. Right now, it looks like, you know, Webb and Brown and Miz are some of those guys that would have some ceiling potential, but maybe don't have as safe of a spot as some of the guys that are going to be chalkier. But that doesn't mean they're bad tournament pivots for sure.
And then TJ, I see, Cease, if we're looking at the, optimal minus projection on SimLabs here, Cease, I understand exactly why, even though he is going to be one of, if not the highest on pitcher, he's still coming in as the highest optimal pitcher because of that strikeout ability plus the matchup tonight. But I see I see Justin's old friend, Sonny Gray here also coming in, probably because he's low ownership. Do you have a take on a guy like Sonny Gray? We didn't really talk about Rin Nelson too much either, who I think is probably like the last of the unnamed people we've talked about that I would have some interest in. What are you doing with maybe these two tonight, TJ, if you were MMEing or 20 max or something like that?
Sonny Gray just never really gets, I mean, he can be incredibly efficient, but with so many other great pitchers on the slate, a lot of people can be efficient with upside. And so Sonny Gray's pitch count drops him out of there for me. Even if I were running 150, I don't think I'd be getting to Sonny. And then Ryan Nelson, I don't love it, but if I need a punt, he's the best option.
And then Justin, real quick, Sonny Gray, yes or no? SimLabs saying yes. What does Justin say?
Yeah, I mean, he's got like a 6.85 ERA in his last 5 starts. The Cardinals are packing it in. They're making golf plans for next month already, like that. And the pitch count thing, and the Brewers are kind of steamrolling to a division title at this point. On this slate with this many arms, I'm out on Gray.
All right, so that's going to do it for some pitching. TJ, I'm going to assume the people have gotten us the extra 5 likes we were looking for. I see Spidey Bomb number 1. He's someone I'm targeting in DFS, so why don't we talk about him?
Yeah, I'm playing him in DFS as well. He's in my one lineup today, Noelvi Marte. Plus 525 over at Bet365. Anything above like plus 450, I really like for this guy today. Noelvi Marte, Spidey Bomb number 1, number 2, coming at 75 likes. So keep hitting that like button.
All right, we'll go to. I got one of my bets from Scores and Odds. I promise this. This is. Clicking zoom in on the wrong thing here. I have completely screwed up. There we go. So that's on my end. All right. So Rashid Shaheed for the Saints here. I would have this line at 4.5, and for a reception line from going to 3.5 to 4.5, that's something like you would be if this was a 4.5 line. This would be like, well, the line if I had it at minus 125 at 4.5. What I'm saying is at 3.5, this would be like minus 220, and the sports books are still allowing you to bet this at like minus 125. It was down to like 102 on FanDuel a little while ago. It looks like they're probably still close to one of the lowest along with DraftKings. But yeah, Shaheed, not the deep threat this year, more of a short yardage target. And Kellen Moore's offense against the 49ers, you don't pass to the tight ends with Fred Warner there. Kellen Moore also doesn't throw to backs in his offense. So there's like nowhere to go but for him. And oh my goodness, who's the other Saints?
Olave.
for those two to get targets. And I would always take Shaheed over the in-game injury risk for Olave just seems so high. I'm going to take Shaheed at the over 3.5. This is, I don't want to quote it, but this is the most amount of money I've had in a single bet. So I like this one quite a bit. So my absolute favorite bet of the week for football. All right. Football bets out of the way, Justin. Let's talk offense tonight, which if there's so many pitchers we want to use, probably not too many offenses we want to use. I see a lot of ownership going to the Padres. Checks notes, they're playing the Rockies. Sounds about right. I see the Astros. We know how we feel about the Astros as a stack. They're drawing a lot of ownership. And then I see the Reds up against Severino out there in Sacramento in the minor league ballpark. So I understand the Padres and the Reds. Give me your take on those two. And then what do you do with Houston coming in as maybe the second or third highest owned offense?
Yeah, I mean, the Padres have 4 runs in the first 2 games combined in this series against Colorado. That's probably not going to last all weekend. You got to think that they're going to bust out in at least one of these games. Chase Dollander is on the IL, so they're calling Bradley Blaylock back up to start. It's just a parade of, one bad pitcher after another with the shuttle between Colorado and wherever their AAA team is, Colorado Springs, maybe. It's just the pitching staff is horrendous. And you got to think that one of these nights, the Padres are going to, go off for 7 or 8 runs against this pitching staff. The alternative is this offense just isn't a huge ceiling offense. It's not the best park for bats, and they're going to be super chalky because there's not a lot of good offense on the slate. Like there's no other teams projected for more than 4.6 runs. So everyone's just going to play the Padres. I'm really curious. I mean, I would, just knowing the way TJ kind of thinks and with him doing a single entry tonight, I'm curious what he's doing with the Padres. I would guess that he's probably fading them at that ownership, but we'll get his take in a second on that. I just think it's really interesting because you almost have to make that decision first, right? What do you want to do with the Padres? I'm doing 20 lineups tonight. I'm kind of straddling the fence on them. I've got 5, I think, Padres stacks. The Reds are my second favorite just because Severino's a low strikeout pitcher and that ballpark. I think the Mariners are fine. Houston is always tough against to love against a righty. But Elder has reverse splits, so that's maybe a feather in their cap. But I think the Padres, the Reds, and the Mariners, some combination of those 3 are my favorites.
All right, TJ. Justin asked you. Let's find the answer. What are you doing with the Padres, and then what else kind of piques your interest here on the board?
Yeah, Card's absolutely with the right read on that one. I planned on fully fading the Padres, and I ended up with Tatis in my lineup just because I'm only playing one lineup on FanDuel today. I had 3,600 remaining, and I just figured, okay, fine, we'll plug in Tatis. And so I'm going with a red stack as my primary stack today. I'm mini stacking Houston. I have a one-off of the of Tatis. But from a full stack perspective, I had planned on definitely avoiding the Padres at that ownership. And Houston, they're going to be highly owned as well, but not everybody. So I am playing Yordan Alvarez, who I really like today. But there's guys in that lineup like Jesus Sanchez batting 5th, Christian Walker batting 6th. If you get to the second half of that lineup at all, they're nowhere near as highly owned as the front half is. So I do still really think that there are ways to stack them, but I prefer a mini stack there. The Reds are my favorite stack on the slate. Great ballpark, minor league park in Sacramento. It's hot. The winds are blowing out. I think they're a really fantastic play. They're my number 1. If I were getting 2 more lineups today, I'd have some interest in Minnesota, Arizona. I get some Milwaukee against Sonny Gray, who, as like Cards mentioned, has been struggling a little bit lately. And then I don't hate the idea of playing some, even though it's not a great ballpark, Seattle, and even though it's a tough pitching matchup, the Athletics, because they do have a lot of power. It's a great spot. It's hot. If Hunter Brown is ever going to have a bad game, it's in a spot like this. Like, I don't think he will.
Hunter Green.
Greens. Sorry, yes, thank you.
They're both
If
on the
Hunter's
slate. I just
ever going to have a bad game, it's in a spot like this. I don't think he will. I think the green side is more likely to succeed. But if he is going to have a bad game, chances are it's in a really great hitter's environment. So I'll take a couple. I would take a couple shots there if I was playing more lineups.
All right. I want to note the Padres lineup came out, and it's pretty close to expected. There's no, I think it's Furman in it, catcher, when we've got Elias Diaz, hitting, I think, 9th for the Padres out there today. But everybody you would mainly want to use towards the top of the lineup is out there. Let's see. Let me check the likes, TJ. Would you say 75 for Spidey Bomb number 2?
Yes, I did. And we're at 66, so 9 away still. 9 more people hitting the like button, and we got another Spidey Bomb coming your way to go along with Noelvi Marte.
All right, I'll throw another bet out for the people too here. So let's get into some position by position. And catcher, Justin, I don't know. Do you want to use Garver or you want to use Diaz now? They're the same price on draft. Well, Garver's $2,600. Diaz is $2,400. I think in a vacuum, you'd probably want to use Garver. He's not great, but you get Diaz versus the Colorado pitching staff for $200 less. Those are probably where a lot of the ownership, at least on DraftKings, is going to go. On FanDuel, I mean, you can get up to Colorado pretty easily on FanDuel today if you want access to one of the premier power bat in the league so far this year. What's your take on DraftKings at the catcher position? You've got Tatis on the outfield. I know it's a different position, but he's even priced less than Cal Raleigh. I mean, for good reason, I think. But just a position I think we're going cheap at today.
Yeah, it's tough to get Raleigh at $6K on DraftKings. That's a pretty healthy salary, but that is going to keep the ownership pretty low. I do like Garver on the cheap if you want some cheaper exposure to Seattle. Both Diaz's are in play. I kind of like Yainer Diaz a bit as well. I wish he wasn't hitting 8th. Yeah. Maybe don't love him as much as I did earlier with that once that lineup came out, but he's still $3,400 on DK, which is pretty cheap. The Arizona catchers, they got both Del Castillo and Moreno in there. If you're not playing Joe Ryan, like Del Castillo, he can hit, Moreno can hit, and they're hitting 4.5, and Moreno's 3,700, and Del Castillo's 2,900. So I think those guys are in play as well. No real one must play here. Like if you're trying to save all the salary you can, I still think I'd take Garver over Diaz, over Padres Diaz, just because Garver at least has good splits against lefties and he's hitting 7th. I don't love Diaz hitting 9th, but it's not a spectacular position. Like you're probably going, 3,700 salary at most here on DK.
Yeah, just not a position I want to spend too much money on. TJ, is there anyone you're home run hunting on? And maybe you can weigh in. Do you want to play Garver or Padres Diaz now that he's in the lineup for, I think, $200 less on DraftKings?
Neither. I would want to play Del Castillo at 2,900. I think he's the best option there. Of Diaz and Garver, I guess I would go Garver, but I prefer Del Castillo a lot more than both of them. For the most part, I just feel like I want to punt with Del Castillo. I want to go all the way up to Raleigh or Langoliers, or I just want to play whoever's in my stack.
All right, let's go to first base. Interesting position. Luis Arraez, I don't know, never someone, even in cash games. I think I've said this a few times this year. Last year when he was like a 330 or 340 hitter, it's a lot more entertaining when you're like a 280 singles hitter, Justin. So even against Colorado, he's not someone I'm really targeting. I know in stacks, maybe you probably have him, but he's not a big target for me. Christian Walker has sort of saved his season a little bit here towards the end of the year after having a really horrible first half of the year. But Sale Stewart on both sites is someone I'm kind of eyeing. Just, I think he's third base.
Yeah, he's only third base on FanDuel,
but he's first base on DraftKings. I don't know, good minor league numbers, good lineup spot tonight. Severino, at least earlier in the year, was really bad at home. I don't know, and he's just a nice salary saver. They'll let you get the Machados, the Tatis, a Cal Raleigh, Ellie De La Cruz in your lineup elsewhere.
Yeah, I like Stewart a lot. He's had a good showing since coming up. Basically playing he is playing in a minor league ballpark there and against a pitcher that's probably a minor league type skill set at this stage of his career. So Stewart is absolutely fine. Agree on Arias. Maybe you're throwing him in your Padres stacks. He's definitely not a guy you want to play as a one-off, just with the lack of power. And he's going to be the chalky option because you can play him at first or second. So I like Stewart on the super cheap. I don't mind Walker. I'd play Ryan O'Hearn if I was looking for a Padre. The Blaylock has really, he's been bad against everyone, but he's really struggled against lefties. So O'Hearn would be my Padres target at the position. I think you could go off the board with like a Cody Clemens or even Nick Kurtz tonight, even against Hunter Green. Some of these guys that are facing the good pitchers, like they're going to be completely unowned tonight, but Ohtani can hit anybody and Nick Kurtz can hit anybody. So, don't sleep on those guys as maybe your GPP one-off type of bets.
All right. Let's go to, and TJ, I was trying to type you something. Do you have headphones in, TJ, or no? Are you just, can you turn the volume down? I think there's a little bit of feedback I'm getting through.
Oh, yeah, I got you. My bad.
All right. So what are we doing at first base in tournaments? Because I don't know, it's a little interesting. No one's playing Ohtani, right? And he can always, even against Logan Webb, he can crush you if you don't have him in your lineups. You've got Kurtz against Green, who he's another guy that I know he had a little bit of a slump for a while there, but against Hunter Green, I know you were big on Kurtz for a long time, and I was going day after day after day. Are you preferring up towards the top or someone in the mid-tier? What do you think of Stewart? I think first base is one of the more interesting spots of the night.
I certainly like I like the spend ups. Like Nick Kurtz, I think is great. Even though it's a tough matchup, this will be some of the lowest ownership you'll ever get Shohei Ohtani at. And so I think he's a really great tournament play. I like Christian Walker because he's Spidey Bomb number 2, plus 475, scrolling at the bottom there to go along with Noel V. Marte at plus 525. I really like Christian Walker today at some pretty low ownership. On FanDuel, Draftkings, he's a little higher. I think this Luis Arias chalk is terrible. Like, with the Padres being the highest owned stack, I think you just, even if you're playing a ton of Padres, just X out Luis Arias and put Ryan O'Hearn in all those lineups. He is such a better DFS hitter than Luis Arias. So that'd be how I'd want to go about it. But my favorite of the whole group is just punting with Sal Stewart. Like on DraftKings, I think that's the best option. FanDuel, you can't. FanDuel, he's third base, but DK, I think you play Sal Stewart.
All right, we got Mr. Who was that? Christian Walker. Yeah, I like that. Sort of kind of saving a season here towards the end of the year as the Spidey Bomb. I'll give you guys one more bet for the day. Josh Allen football rushing yards 33.5. I got to play Josh Allen against man coverage. Josh Allen goes over. That's pretty much the hypothesis here, and it's backed up if you look through a lot of the extra data and things like that. He also crushes Aaron Glenn. He's crushed the Lions a couple of times. He faces them. Aaron Glenn has almost always allowed running quarterbacks to go way over their totals, hit their longest rush, all sort of things with the man coverage. I know it's different personnel, but it's the same scheme. So I like Josh Allen over 33.5 rush yards. Another one of my favorite bets of the week. That'll do it for football bets. We'll get a couple more Spidey Bombs, hopefully, if you keep clicking the like button. Let's go over to second base here, cards. And as enthusiastic as I was about first base, I am not enthusiastic about second base. It's a lot of the names. Jose Altuve, right? Righty against Elder. Sure, right? We can get on that. Arias, again, this is probably why he's drawing the chalk. It's probably not at first base. It's because you can play him at second base on DraftKings, which would make some sense. You've got Cronenworth there as well. Stealing ownership. You got a couple of your cheap Cardinals on here. Nothing's really standing out. Probably the last spot I'd be filling in on my lineup, and I have no problem even going to like Sagasi as an ultimate salary saver here.
Yeah, it's bad here. Donovan was the best hitter on the team for the first couple months of the year, and he's only 3,300 on DK, but he's just coming off a long injury absence. And don't really want to target hitters against Mizorowski. Like, it seems like your best case scenario is like a couple of walks and a single. It's just there's not a lot of power in the Cardinals lineup. And then you got the Padres guys like Cronenworth's been bad. Arias, we've already talked about the limited ceiling. Jorge Polanco hitting cleanup against the lefty, I suppose, is the guy that I've kind of landed on. I don't feel great about anybody really here, but Altuve and Polanco, all depends on the salary that you have available. Totally agree on potentially filling in this position last, because if you do need to punt with Sajacy, I'm fine with that. I do like Luke Keyshaw a bit in GPPs. He's not going to have hardly any ownership because he's priced all the way up at 5,300, but Ryan Nelson has had reverse splits this year. He struggled with right-handed bats with power. So, I do like Keyshaw a good bit. And then was waiting on that Angels lineup to come out. It did just come out. So it is Trout, Moncada, Ward, Adele. So Adele's back from his illness. Christian Moore, Logan Davidson, Denzer Guzman, Sebastian Rivero, and Bryce Teodosio. So Neto is not in there tonight. That Angels lineup is horrendous.
Yeah.
It's an upgrade for Woo, I guess.
Woo straight, what was it, 7.5 strikeouts I saw on the Bryant? That's a lot.
Which
that's
is really high
line.
for him.
Yeah. What's your take? I mean, there's a reason why he's the highest owned pitcher on the slate here. Nothing in that lineup's going to scare you off of that. If not,
no, absolutely not. I mean, I would not bet over 7.5 Ks just because that's a huge number for a guy with a 25% strikeout rate. But Randy Vasquez just struck out 9 or 10 Rockies the other day. So that when you're playing the Rockies or the Angels, all bets are off. So it's Woo is probably the SP1 in cash for sure right now.
All right, TJ, second base. You got anyone you're trying to hunt a home run off of here? It's just, I don't know. I think Cards and I summed it up pretty well. Nobody I really want to play. So what do you want to look at in terms of ownership here?
Yeah, I don't like it, but I'm landing on Altuve. I think in terms of home run hunting, if you can get there, Ketel Marte is a really great spend up against Joe Ryan. Joe Ryan is essentially elite against righties and average against lefties. And so Ketel Marte against Ryan, I think this is a great spot for him. Totally fine with Bryce Terang if you want to get there. Cronenworth over Arias 10 times out of 10 if you're building a San Diego team. Other than that, just whoever's in your stack.
Yeah, we see Marte popping on the SimLabs Optimal. McLean too, mainly because he's like the one. All the other Reds bats are very attainable. He's just more down in the order, so he's a little harder to get to, I think. Well, not harder to get to, just people won't be clicking his name a lot. So, and we see a Polanco on there that Justin was talking about. So I like where SimLabs is pointing in terms of trying to get a little different from some of these large field tournaments. Third base. All right, so here's enter Padres we want to roster, Justin. We've got Manny Machado here. Carlos Correa's drawing a lot of ownership, but I don't know. I think I want Correa against lefties, even if Elder is reverse splits. Correa is just very pedestrian against righties. I want Correa versus a lefty, and I don't have that here. So I'm going with Machado, who's basically the only it seems like every time I don't want to play Tatis, he has a huge game. I want to play Tatis tonight, so he's gonna give me the Tatis game that I fear, where it's like a nothing. But I have a lot of faith in Machado to have a good game tonight. He's someone I'm actively trying to get on my teams, even though at least on DraftKings you can play Correa that's cheap. I'm spending up on Machado, and of course on FanDuel you've got Sale Stewart at 2,300. He's probably the guy you're going to be plugging in over there.
Yeah, I actually like third quite a bit tonight, which is pretty rare for this season. We've had a lot of weak nights at third base, but it's on this slate. It's pretty good because we're talking about limited offense at some of the other positions. Machado certainly the spend for me, but you've got Eugenio Suarez is good with power against lefties. Mentioned Ryan Nelson's reverse splits earlier. I like Royce Lewis a lot. I'd play Royce Lewis over Correa tonight. Just $100 difference there on DraftKings. Just the way Lewis lines up against Nelson, I like that matchup. So Machado, Suarez, Lewis, Max Muncy's back for the Dodgers. Probably not playing him against Logan Webb, but I like the top end and mid-range options here. This probably isn't the position to go all the way down and punt, unless you are talking about Stewart, who again, we mentioned is only third base eligible on FanDuel. You can also, you got the flexibility to play 2 third basemen if you want on FanDuel with the utility spot. But on DraftKings, Machado, if you can fit him. But I like Royce Lewis a good bit in terms of who I'll be overweight on. Lewis is probably the guy for me. I'll be underweight a bit on Correa if his ownership is truly over 20% there. Again, I like Lewis, and Suarez would be next in line.
All right, we need some more likes. We got to get up to 100. We're at 78 to get another Spidey bomb. I know TJ's got it waiting for us, but he will not give it to you unless you get those likes up. So please click those. TJ, third base. What do you think of this high ownership on Correa? SimLabs is saying stay away. SimLabs is leaning towards me with Manny Machado. There's a salary difference there. Would you split it and maybe go with Royce Lewis? I think I'd probably I like Justin's take Lewis over Correa straight up, especially for a tournament. The upside for Lewis is certainly quite a bit higher here. What are you doing here? Spending up on Machado, going to the mid-tier with Lewis and Correa, or anybody else?
Yeah, it's tough, but I think you got to do whatever you can to get up to Manny Machado. I think he is by far the best play in this spot. On DraftKings, on FanDuel, you can play Noelvi Marte here, and that's where I'm getting to him. Really like him on third base on FanDuel. Correa, I think, is, he's been hitting the ball really well. He's in a good spot, just too highly owned. Like, that's just too much ownership for Carlos Correa today. So I think you want to try and go elsewhere if you can. I like the Suarez call. I think Matt Chapman's in a fine spot. And like similar to Ohtani, I like Logan Webb today, but there's nothing wrong with the $4,300 Max Muncy bet and cleanup.
All right, let's go to shortstop. We've got what is probably going to end up being one of the plays of the day. People are going to be targeting Elly De La Cruz. Pretty attainable on both sites, even with, some high tier pitching. You can get 1 to 2 5K-ish players pretty easily on DraftKings today. And you take a look at the rest of the position, Justin, and outside of Pena, who is very consistent, has some upside, reasonably good matchup here today. I mean, then there's nothing inspiring here. De La Cruz probably should be the highest owned bat on the slate to me. It's just the position's too weak for him not to get in there.
Yeah, it seems strange to have a night where third base has quite a few options and shortstop doesn't have hardly any, but that's where we're at with the way this 7-gamer has shaken out. So Elly is my priority spend, probably alongside Tatis tonight. I think you can make a case for either one of them, or probably Machado as well. But since I like those other third base options a little bit, I find myself prioritizing Elly or Tatis in most lineups. And I'm fine with Pena too. He just feels a little overpriced. Again, I don't mind the Twins a little bit. Brooks Lee, if you're looking to punt, but that doesn't feel great. Mookie Betts, I'm not playing at all against Logan Webb. He's just too expensive. Maybe a Willie Adames against Kershaw as a contrarian play, or a Jacob Wilson. But all these other guys that are spendy have really tough matchups tonight. They're facing the good pitchers. So, yeah, it's Elly by a good margin for me. I probably put Pena next. You could play Cronenworth here if you want, but you're probably playing him at second. So, not much to add here. It's pretty weak.
TJ, I know you said your Reds. I believe you said at the top of the show the Reds were your favorite stack. If that's true, I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. Ellie's got to be like your top play of the day, right?
No, but I am playing him in my lineup. Like he's the red that's going to be the highest owned, and while he has still been playing, like hitting the ball well for contact and getting lots of steals, he hasn't been hitting the ball well for power recently. And I mean, don't get me wrong, this couldn't be a better spot for power here, but I do still like Elly De La Cruz. I am getting to him in my lineup, but I was considering fading him and just going with Stewart, Marte, Hayes, and Friedel as my 4 Reds over on FanDuel. I ended up going Elly though, just because I like the way my build looked a little bit better with him there instead of Friedel. Outside of Elly today, I think Jeremy Pena is a pretty interesting option. Willie Adames is fine. Other than that, like shortstop is just not the shortstop we know and love. So for me, it's Elly, Adames, Pena, or just whoever's in your stack.
All right, let's get to the outfield, and I always like doing this in the outfield, and I think there's two teams, the Padres and the Reds, where we kind of got to dice up the outfielders, Justin, on who we want to use tonight. So let's start with the Padres. We've got Tatis higher salary, Merrill and Laureano floating around the same-ish. They're a tier down from Tatis. Rank those in terms of the guys you'd want to use tonight from that San Diego outfield.
Yeah, I'd probably rank them in that order: Tatis, Merrill, and Laureano. Like Merrill, when we did this last Saturday, the same exercise, and Merrill hadn't done anything. Well, since then on DraftKings, he's got a 24, a 12, a 17, and a 14 all in the last week. So Merrill has finally woken up at least a little bit, whereas Laureano's been pretty bad. Really nothing for counting stats over the last 5 or 6 days. So Blaylock, I do prefer lefties against him as well, so that would give Merrill the edge over Laureano for me. Tatis is always, fine as a spend against this pitching staff, leading off. Could get 5 at bats. So Tatis, Merrill, Laureano for me tonight. Well, and then you got Sheets too, if you want to throw him in.
Yeah, I actually think Sheets over probably Laureano for me, right?
That's fine. I'd put him below Merrill though too.
Yeah, so I would have that the same as you. Let's go to the Reds now too, Justin, because this one they're all Marte's 4K on DraftKings, Friedel's 3,700, and Hayes is 3,800. So let's rank those for the people too. Take salary into account, whatever you need to. They're all just so tightly packed here. How do you figure out which one you want to end up with?
Yeah, Marte would be the first one for me. I mean, he's got a big time ISO against right-handed pitching. And you can play. He's third base outfield on FanDuel, I believe. So, but Marte's my favorite. From there, I would go to lefties. Severino's allowed a lot of hard contact and line drives to lefties. So Hayes would be farther down the list, even though he's hitting cleanup. So I'd probably go Marte 1, Friedel 2, Lux 3, I think.
All right. Yeah, Lux is just he's someone I pass over on the Reds. There hasn't been a lot of upside. Maybe it's there for me tonight, but just not someone I tend to click on. What about you, TJ? You want to do the same process here? Maybe rank the Padres outfielders, rank the Reds outfielders in terms of interest for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going Marte 1. For raw points, I would go Friedel 2, but for considering ownership, I'm going Hayes 2, Friedel 3. Marte definitely 1, but Friedel, if you're getting different elsewhere, I think that's totally fine. If you want to get a little less chalky, I like Austin Hayes there. In terms of San Diego, I think I would go Tatis 1, Laureano 2, Merrill 3, but again, that's a case of I like Merrill better than Laureano, but I would take Laureano for the lower ownership.
All right, and then so now, Justin, let's go to the non-Padres or Reds. I think we've diced that up for everybody. What else can we possibly do today from the cash game perspective? I mean, your lineup should be filled in the outfield. There's, each team, there's eight players from 2 teams that you might want to use in the outfield today. You're probably on those. Is there anyone else in the cash game consideration, at least on DraftKings for you? It's got to be some combination of Reds and Padres. Oh, you got Yordan Alvarez too. Maybe you can talk about him. He's a little bit higher priced, but a healthy Yordan in a spot like tonight would be one of the highest priced players on the slate, and he's not. So where does he fit into the plans?
Yeah, he's definitely in that conversation. I mean, he's had a bit of a tough week as well after he finally looked like he was breaking out of it, and Elder's a bit reverse split. So, I'm definitely not going to argue with playing Yordan. I'm underweight on Houston as a whole tonight, just because the ownership seems a little bit high for what they generally produce against right-handed pitching. I would prefer just going with a one-off approach, and if your one-off is Yordan, I think that's okay. You could certainly play him in cash games if that salary works. And his salary also seems to be in somewhat of a dead zone outside. Like if you already have Merrill or Laureano or Sheets or Marte, the non-Reds and Padres, there's not a whole lot of guys in that 4K-ish range on DraftKings. So Mentioned the righty power against Ryan Nelson, so Buxton won't be chalky tonight at 6,200. He would be a contrarian spend. Jesus Sanchez, maybe another guy you could look at in the mid-range. Austin Martin is hitting second for the Twins. So those are a couple guys that, if you want to look to Minnesota, you can get some reasonably priced options there. The Seattle outfield is playable, though expensive. I think a Rosarena would be my favorite over Julio and definitely over Robles. That's probably most of it. I mean, there's not a lot of great offense tonight. We've already taken 2 teams out of the mix, so it's not like there's 20 other options to deal with here.
Yeah, we've got Austin Martin currently is the 4th highest projected owned outfielder of the slate. That seems a little high to me. I understand it because he's 3,400, but to me, I mean, I would find $300 to play TJ Friedel. I would find a couple more $100 to play Marte. I'd go up to the Tatis or Merrill tier or Jordan. Where does Austin Martin? To me, he's someone I don't know, maybe like low double digits, but I don't really. I guess I understand because he's hitting second. I would just prefer so many other bats in the outfield tonight other than him.
Yeah, I think this is a fair statement for sure.
All right. TJ, what else are you doing? We've talked San Diego. We talked Cincinnati. We've talked Jordan. What's your take on Jordan? And then give me maybe a spiel of some of the other guys you want to be targeting for tournaments.
Jordan's priority 1 for me tonight. He is my favorite bat on the slate. On both sites, especially DraftKings where he's extra cheap, but on both sites. Other guys that I'd be looking to get to at some low ownership, like obviously we have our Reds, we have our Padres, they're our top priorities, but I think Randy Rosarena is a very interesting play today. In the mid tier, I don't mind getting to, I mean, not really anybody. It's like Marte, Hayes, Friedel. Those are the guys I like. In that same range, I like Lawrence Butler against Hunter Green leading off today. I think he's pretty interesting. Mickey Moniak as a one-off against Dylan Cease, I think is something you could do today. Gavin Lux is a cheapie against Severino, but it's really like mostly my Reds and my Padres and Jordan that I'm prioritizing here.
All right. And Justin, I got a question for you. I'm filling out my FanDuel team here. And I have to sacrifice basically one of these players from my FanDuel team tonight. So you tell me which one I got to sacrifice. I got Tatis or Machado. I got Ellie De La Cruz, or I got Jordan Alvarez. Which one is not going to make the cut tonight?
Yeah, that's difficult. I see. Out of that mix,
I think it should be Ellie.
I don't know. I'm so high on the Reds tonight. I love the matchup for Ellie. Like, I get that Ellie hasn't been great, but a low strikeout righty that allows a ton of line drives to lefties. I'm too in on the Ellie train tonight. That I'm probably leaving Machado or Jordan out, but I know it's a very tough question.
I think I'm leaving Jordan out personally. I don't know.
I like leaving Ellie out, but based on their positions, because I like third base better, especially on FanDuel. On FanDuel, I would leave Machado out. On DraftKings, I would leave Ellie out.
All right, because you can play Stewart on FanDuel, you can play Lewis on FanDuel. I know you're not playing Correa, but you can play Suarez on FanDuel. So
get those likes up. I see TJ. We need 12 more for a third Spidey bomb. Get those up. We'll go to some questions. You can post them either in the Discord in the live stream chat, or you can post them here on YouTube, and we will get to both of them. I have the live stream chat pulled up. I don't see anything from tonight in there, so I will now scroll back through YouTube, and let's see what we have here. Doesn't look like you guys have been posting a lot during the show here. There's a lot of you in here. Let's get some questions. We'll let those roll in. Justin, why don't you maybe summarize 1 to 2 minutes on pitching for maybe a couple of people that came late? And I also want to give a public service announcement to anyone that played that FanDuel, the greatest tournament ever created, where there was like the risk-free millionaire maker last week for FanDuel. Your credits, you've got to use them up by the end of tomorrow if you had those on those. So if anybody played in that and hasn't used their credits up, just a public service announcement. They disappear after Sunday. So, Justin, why don't you recap pitching for everybody?
Yeah, there's about 12 guys tonight on a 7-game slate that are viable. Maybe 12 is a little bit of a stretch because you're not playing Blaylock and you're probably not playing Mitch Ferris, but maybe that leaves the rest. The other 12 are all at least somewhat viable. Frankly, I think you can make it at least something of a case for the other 12 guys. It's just deep. It's deep for a short slate. I think Brian Wu and Dylan Cease are the obvious cash game pairing tonight on DraftKings, with Wu at 10.2K and Cease at 8,800. They're both projected for 7.5Ks. The risk is with Cease just because you never know when he's going to walk 4 guys and rack up a high pitch count. My favorite tournament pivots are Hunter Green and Hunter Brown. Just Green, they'll let him go 100 pitches. Has a big time K rate, has been really good lately. Hunter Brown, hasn't allowed more than 2 runs in the start since like the beginning of August. And he's got really low ownership. So I would put them next on the list. Probably not going cheap too much tonight. If I had to YOLO a super cheap guy, or cheapish guy, I would go with Ryan Nelson. I've seen some people in the YouTube talking about Kershaw. Like Kershaw's been good, but he is absolutely a pitch to contact guy. Like he's K prop is 3.5. I don't have any interest in that for DFS. Give me a Nelson, or some people might even look to Severino as a cheap guy. I would do that before I went with Kershaw, but yeah, probably Nelson if you're really desperate down there.
All right, let's see. A couple other questions have come in. TJ, I'll throw this to you. Matrix wants to know the top GPP pitchers for FanDuel. That's sort of, it's an even tougher question than the DraftKings one. DraftKings, we can at least put some, today there's 2 guys when we want to use like 6 or 7. Some days we're forced to use 2 when we only want to use 1. So we have the bounty at pitching tonight. Do you have maybe your favorites over there?
If you are using a stack today that is quite different, your bats will be unique. They'll be low owned. I would go with Brian Wu. I think he's the top option overall. If you are looking for a pivot off of Brian Wu, my favorite would be Jacob Mizorowski. Behind him would be either of the Hunters or Logan Brown.
All right. John from the YouTube wants to know DraftKings cash cards. I'm going to throw this to you. It's a 3-piece. So Diaz, catcher, San Diego, Friedel and Sheets, or Garver with Lux and Merrill. So kind of a mosh of all the teams we want to use out there. Do you have a favorite?
Friedel, Sheets, or Garver. Oh, that's a 3v3. Diaz, Friedel, and Sheets, or Garver, Lux, and Merrill.
Yeah.
I'd go Garver, Lux, and Merrill, I guess.
All right. So I'm firmly on the no Lux. I do not play Gavin Lux. So
I know. I like Garver and Merrill better than.
Yeah, I understand that one. I'm going to go with the first one. TJ, break the tie for us here. It's cash. That's usually what me and Justin more are into, but we need to break the tie for the people. Who you got?
Probably the second one. Just getting Merrill in there, I think, is important. The other pieces don't really matter.
All right. FanDuel pitcher cash, Wu or Hunter Brown, if you have to pick one.
What was the format?
Cash, that's got to be Wu.
Yeah.
Wu's cash. What do you think about Cease on FanDuel for your cash pitcher, just with the price discount to get another batter that gets you? If that gets you the 4 guys, right? We were trying to, I was trying to give you 4 you had to take out. If it gets you an Alvarez, it gets you Tatis Machado, and gets you Ellie De La Cruz, would you go down to a guy like Cease over Wu?
I vastly prefer Wu personally, but I think projections are king with cash, and projections say that it is absolutely A-okay to go Cease.
What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. It is a little bit nerve-wracking just because Cease has the command issues, but yeah, it's the Rockies. So I'm fine if you did that. If you had the 1,000, I'd go Wu, but it's close.
Yeah, 1,000's that's one really good bad upgrade, or if you spread that around, 2 or 3 bats that you actually want to play tonight. So I'm fine with Cease. I'm personally playing Cease on my FanDuel cash team tonight. All right, Mr. Relevant wants to know, he's digging deep. Alec Thomas or James Outman, large field DK tournament. TJ, you're looking for that 1% owned guy towards the bottom of the lineups. Who's going to get you there?
Alec Thomas.
What do you think, cards on that one?
Yeah, I'd be okay with Thomas as well.
Yeah, I think I would do Thomas. So that's a clean sweep from there. Any extra time? Shout out Dean. What's up, Dean? Always love Dean.
You can catch Dean, Tides, and Bobby bright and early tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. for NFL Grinders Live. Then picking up right after them, we got the GPP Final Takes crew. It's Eric Beinford, Jordan Vanek, and Neil Orfield talking some GPP plays. And then closing things out for crunch time, going up until lock, it'll be myself, Christy, and Kyle Murray.
All right, so a good football lineup from 9:30 on. If you want to read any articles, you can check that out on RotoGrinders. If you need bets, go to Scores and Odds for that. I think that's going to do it. I don't see any questions in the live stream chat on Discord. It appears we've run through our YouTube. Looks like TJ's putting up a nice combination discount for everybody. If you're looking to check out some of the premium stuff, check that out. But other than that, I'm going to wish everybody a good night. Justin, I hope your son's ankle is feeling a little better in the morning. Probably not, right, though? The ankle, the next day or two after the ankle sprain, not very good. So
yeah, I told him he's got to keep it low key tomorrow for sure, just so we can try to not make it any more painful. And I mean, look, I'm giving him a free pass to just sit around and watch football with me tomorrow, so that'll be just fine.
Life's a dream. TJ, I know you've had a busy day here. Hopefully you can get some rest, and may all of our baseball teams be good tonight, and may our football teams be good tomorrow. For Justin and TJ, I'm Britt. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we out you.